Shadow in the last photograph. Autumn in the small town of Willowbrook wrapped the streets in a gray haze, the rain whispering against rooftops as if recounting forgotten tales. Emily Wood, a 20-year-old photographer, walked toward her studio, clutching an umbrella that fluttered in the wind. Her life was as quiet as the old film reels in her drawer, yet overshadowed by the loss of her brother Liam, who vanished 10 years ago. The studio, hidden in an old house with peeling walls, smelled of dust and developing chemicals. The creaking floorboards seemed to hum a melancholic tune as Emily switched on the dim light and sat down to process her photos. That evening, something was off. On every photograph, weddings, children, portraits, a shadow appeared. Faint, blurred, but distinctly human, it lingered in the corner of the frame where no one had been during the shoot. Emily checked her camera, lenses, lighting, everything was fine. Yet the shadow persisted. She zoomed in on a photo on her screen, and her heart pounded. The shadow's outline resembled Liam, his lanky frame, the tilt of his head. "This can't be," she whispered, a chill seeping into her bones. Liam had disappeared at 18, leaving behind only emptiness and her guilt for failing to protect him. Emily pulled out a box of old photographs hidden under the desk. Among them was a shared photo, her and Liam as children, laughing at a picnic. But now she saw it. The shadow stood behind them, though no one else had been there that day. Her fingers trembled as she touched the yellowed paper. This wasn't just a camera glitch. It was something more. She tried taking a new photo, of an empty wall, but the shadow appeared again, closer, clearer. The air in the studio grew heavy, as if someone were breathing down her neck. She turned off the lights, leaving only the lamp above the desk. The silence in the studio was piercing, but then a whisper drifted from the dark room where old film was stored. "Can you see me?" The voice was soft but familiar, like an echo of childhood. Emily froze, gripping her camera like a weapon. The lamp flickered, and in the darkness, she saw movement, a shadow, slowly approaching. Her heart thundered, threatening to break free from her chest. She triggered the camera's flash, and for a moment, she thought the shadow smiled. What was this? Was it Liam's spirit calling to her? Or was something far more sinister lurking in her studio? The dim light in the studio quivered, as if afraid of the darkness beyond the lamp's reach. Emily sat at the desk, clutching the photograph where the shadow loomed behind her and Liam. Her memories of her brother were fading, as if someone were erasing them with a gum eraser. What did his laugh look like? What was his voice like? She couldn't recall. The shadow in the photos grew sharper, and each time Emily took a new shot, she felt a cold touch, as though an invisible hand brushed her shoulder. She resolved to uncover the truth about the studio, which seemed to hide more than just old film. Emily began digging through archives tucked away in a dusty cabinet. There, she found journals belonging to Edgar, an eccentric photographer who owned the studio before vanishing 15 years ago. His handwriting was chaotic, words intertwined with sketches of shadows. "The shadow comes when you call for the lost. It steals your memories to become you," he wrote. A shiver ran down Emily's spine. Had she unknowingly summoned this shadow by grieving for Liam? She approached the old mirror in the corner of the studio, where Edgar once photographed clients. In the reflection, she saw herself, and the shadow standing behind her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was there. Yet the mirror cracked with a sharp sound, as if someone had struck the glass. Emily stumbled back, her breath ragged. She remembered how Liam loved playing with mirrors, saying they held secrets. Did he know something about this studio? Deep in the cabinet, Emily found a box labeled Liam, 2015, the year he disappeared. Inside was an old film reel. With trembling hands, she loaded it into the projector. On the screen, Liam appeared, young, smiling, in this very studio. He was photographing something, but beside him stood a shadow, tall, blurred, holding his hand. In the final frame, Liam screamed, and the film cut off. Emily felt her memories of her brother slipping away, like sand through her fingers. She decided to photograph herself to see if the shadow was still there. The flash went off, and the screen revealed the image. Emily, with the shadow closer than ever, its hand resting on her shoulder. A cold touch pierced her, and she heard Liam's voice, soft but clear, "Don't look at her." The studio plunged into darkness, and the mirror in the corner cracked again, shattering into fragments. What was hiding behind this shadow? Could Emily trust her own eyes, or did they already belong to someone else? The darkness in the studio was thick, like smoke, and Emily felt she was no longer alone. The shadow pursued her, in mirrors, in photographs, in her own thoughts. Memories of Liam dissolved, like old pictures left in the sun. She couldn't recall how he laughed, couldn't remember his favorite song. But she knew the answers lay within the studio. At the Willowbrook Library, Emily uncovered old records about the house where the studio stood. In the 19th century, rituals were performed here to connect with those who had passed. Legend warned that a shadow would come for those who grieved, stealing their memories to become alive. Back at the studio, Emily found Edgar's diary hidden in a secret drawer. His words were a scream on the page. "The shadow isn't a ghost. It wants your life. I called for my daughter, but I lost myself." Emily realized the shadow was using Liam's image to tether itself to her. But why her? She decided to destroy Edgar's old camera, believing it to be the source of the curse. Raising the hammer, she froze. The camera flashed on its own, and the photo showed Emily, but without a face. Her reflection in the mirror smiled, though she screamed in terror. The shadow stepped out of the mirror, its outlines growing sharper, almost human. It spoke in Emily's voice, "Give yourself to me, and I'll bring Liam back." The words sounded like a temptation, but Emily sensed the trap. She remembered Liam's words, "Don't be afraid of the dark, Em. It's just playing with you." But now the darkness played by different rules. Emily rushed to the diary, searching for a way to stop the shadow. Edgar had written of a ritual: burn all the photos taken with the camera and destroy it. But the cost was steep, losing all memories of the one you called. Emily gathered the old films and photographs, but each picture was a knife to her heart. Liam on his bicycle, Liam at her graduation, Liam with a camera. She felt herself slipping away, her hands trembling as she placed the photos into a metal bowl. The shadow stood in the corner, its eyes glowing like flashes. "The world doesn't need you," it whispered, and Emily felt her own thoughts dissolve. She looked into the mirror, and saw not herself, but the shadow, smiling with her face. Would she sacrifice herself for Liam, or had the shadow already won? The studio was swallowed by darkness, with only a dim lamp casting trembling light on the pile of photographs. Emily stood before them, holding matches. Edgar's diary lay open. The shadow was an entity that fed on memories of the lost. Edgar had created it, trying to bring back his daughter, but lost himself instead. Emily knew that destroying the camera and photos would erase her memories of Liam, but it was the only way to stop the shadow. Her heart tore apart. Each photo was a piece of the brother she loved. The shadow appeared again, its voice an echo. "Give me yourself, and Liam will return." It showed Emily the moment of her brother's disappearance. Liam had come to the studio to buy a camera, but Edgar lured him into a ritual, trapping his soul in the world of shadows. In the mirror, Emily saw Liam. He reached out, pleading, "Don't listen to her." Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she lit the match. Flames engulfed the photos, and the studio filled with smoke. Mirrors cracked, the shadow screamed in her voice, and the camera flashed as if fighting for life. Emily grabbed the hammer and smashed the camera. A blinding white light flooded the studio, and she saw Liam. He smiled, as he had in childhood, then vanished. Emily fell to her knees, feeling memories of her brother slip away like water. She could only recall his name, but not his face. The smoke cleared, and the studio became empty, as if it had never held secrets. Emily stepped outside, where the morning bathed Willowbrook in golden light. In her hand, she held the only surviving photograph, but it showed just a landscape, without Liam. The autumn leaves rustled underfoot, as if whispering secrets she'd never unravel. The morning sun pierced through the gray clouds, casting trembling reflections on the cobblestones, but her heart held a quiet, not empty, but calm, like the stillness after a storm. Memories of her brother had dissolved, like smoke from the burned photos, yet a sense of his presence lingered, an echo resonating in an empty room. She glanced back at the old studio in the distance. Its peeling walls no longer seemed so menacing, but they still harbored something elusive. Emily recalled Edgar's words from the diary. The shadow never truly disappears. It waits for you to call again. Had the shadow truly been destroyed when the camera shattered into pieces? Or did it lurk in her own doubts, ready to return in a moment of weakness? Emily gripped the photograph tighter, and suddenly felt a faint prick in her palm. She opened her hand. A tiny smudge had appeared on the paper, like a shadow slowly spreading, like ink. Deep in her soul, she knew, returning to the studio might uncover new answers, but also new traps. She could search for Liam, digging into the past, or let him go, accepting that some stories end without a final period. Emily took a step forward, the wind catching her hair as if whispering, "Choose." She paused, a faint smile on her lips, and tucked the photograph into her pocket. Willowbrook was waking up, a dog barked somewhere, church bells rang, and the silhouette of Liam she thought she'd seen seemed to melt into the morning light. Emily walked away from the studio, but her thoughts drifted back to the dark room where flashes once echoed. Would she leave the shadow behind, or would she one day return to face it head-on? Her footsteps echoed on the cobblestones, and the empty photograph in her pocket felt heavier than the camera she'd destroyed. Some mysteries, she thought, don't live in the studio, but within us. And perhaps that's where their true power lies.